In a prior video, I kind of discussed how attending family reunions can help cultivate resilience. And you may say, well, what does that have to do with this video and self-care? Well, it has a lot to do with it because in this video, I'm going to go a little bit past attending family reunions, and I'm going to be talking about researching your family roots and how it can support your self-care journey by boosting your sense of well-being. So that's what I'm doing is one of the self-care activities that I participate in. And I just thought I'd share it might be helpful to some of you. So for those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Colette. I created this channel as a safe space with you in mind. I help Black women to embrace new seasons of their lives with purpose and joy by pursuing resilience, by practicing self leadership, specifically authentic leadership. And we will talk about that a little bit later as the channel progresses. I'm pretty excited about that as well. And by pivoting towards entrepreneurship. If any of those things that I've just mentioned resonates with you, welcome to the community. We'd love to have you. So at this time, I encourage you to grab something to write with, a pencil, a pen, paper, your tablet, your phone, whatever you use to take notes. Find a comfortable place. Let's talk. Researching your family roots has a number of different benefits and it can support your self-care journey in a number of ways, and I'm going to talk about a few of them. So the first way, and this is not in any particular order, and you're going to see me looking down at my notes, so we'll go ahead and get started. So number one, researching your family roots, it can stimulate your mind. you know um, you'll be developing, at least I have been developing some new skills. And one of the main new skills that I've been developing is using ancestry.com. I'm not getting paid for that. That just happens to be the genealogical software that I'm using. And I use another one as well. But learning how to uh, use that tool to bring up documents that you need. Um, It'll also help you. I don't know about you, but I'm a researcher, but I can always improve on my researching skills. So, for example, I look up vital statistics, I track down birth certificates, death certificates, burial plots, military records, and you're kind of putting pieces together to kind of discover, some of the people that are in your family, some of your ancestors. So that's number one. It helps to stimulate your mind. Number two, it helps with self-esteem. So how does that look? It looks like starting a project, okay, that you want to start. For me, it is establishing family trees on all of the sides of my family, the four sides, and trying to go back as far as I can. And it gives me a sense of accomplishment because I'm able to find information and connect the dots. So, for example, I was recently able to find my great, 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 great grandmother. Her name was Pender, and she was born in 1835. I found the plantation where she was enslaved. I also found her on some of the records. Unfortunately, at that time, on some of the records, they counted her with the livestock. So you'll see, a horse, a pig, and then you would see her. And then, of course, a little later, um, some of the enslaved individuals were counted in the actual census where humans were counted. But anyway, I was able to find her. She was born in 1835, and it's just amazing to find her, to see her, and to put this into context. She was 28 years old when the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. It was great because I was able to show my mom Pender on one of the census records and just seeing my mother's face as she looked at her great grandmother's name on a census record, along with her great grandmother, who at the time was a baby. I think we looked at the 1900 census. So it gives you a sense of accomplishment, and that helps to boost your self-esteem. So that is very helpful in, in your self-care. The other thing it does, number three, it helps you to recall old memories. Now, as a child, I remember my older relatives sitting me down and just telling me stories about the family. I was blessed and lucky enough to grow up knowing my great great grandmother and my great grandmother. And I knew my great great grandmother's brothers, some of the brothers. So I knew them, and I got to talk to them, and they were always, giving me information about the family. So for example, Mother Dear, and that was my great great grandmother, and Mama T, my great grandmother, as well as my grandmother, they always told me about their life in the South. Our family, like many other African American families, Black families, migrated from the South of the United States to, some of them went west, some of them went, like our family went west, some of them went, up to Chicago and that area. But there was three different streams that Black families migrated from the South during the Great Migration, and I kind of talked about that in my video where I talk about family reunions. And I will link that video in the description box below and up somewhere in the top there. But it's very beneficial, just understanding and hearing these stories. But there are also some health benefits to researching your family, because some studies show that when you're researching your family, the when you reminisce about some of the stories that you were told, and you link them with going forward and trying to investigate your history, they found that reminiscing lowers blood pressure and your heart rate. So, that's huge. That's huge. And I can see how that can happen because, when you're reminiscing, you're dreaming about things and just kind of connecting dots. And if you're anything like me, it's really relaxing because you're painting a picture in your mind. So, that's number three. It has health benefits, and those health benefits includes lowering your blood pressure and lowering your heart rate. So, number four, researching your roots or your family history, it reinforces and strengthens family connections. So, when you learn about some common ancestors, it can bring the family together. I mentioned earlier how I showed my mom her great 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 grandmother on paper. And just to see the look in her eyes, it was, I loved it. I mean, she's asking more questions, and I was able to show her, how this person is related to her on the tree, and how this person is related to her mom, how this person is related to her father. And I was able to back that up by showing her some of the census records. So it brings family together in terms of talking about our common ancestors. um, I attended another family reunion, my Ellis family reunion, and it was wonderful. And I'm gonna take a break real quick and just give a shout out to my cousin Ponzel for hosting the family reunion. It was great, and I also want to dedicate this video to my Aunt Ludi. Aunt Ludi is the oldest living relative in the Ellis family reunion line. She's actually the last of those siblings that helped create us. She's the last one living. So I wanted to dedicate this video to her. Anyway, I was able to have a few in-depth conversations with one of my cousins um, from Texas. So one of the ways that researching the history can strengthen the family is you are able to connect with long lost relatives and figure out how you guys are related. So one of my cousins from Texas, he had heard about the family, but he didn't know us. So we were able to talk, he and I was able to show him a snapshot of the Ellis family tree and show him on the tree how his grandmother, excuse me, his grandfather and my great grandfather were brothers. And so it was a great feeling to be able to give a family member some information that they did not have. He also gave me some information that I didn't have that allowed me to fill in some additional information on the tree because he spent a lot of time in the towns that our family, the Ellis family, is from. So it was really really great, reinforcing, those family connections and people coming together and just talking about things. The other thing at the family reunion we were able to do, and some of my cousins, and they did this, they talked to my Uncle Jack. Now I call him my Uncle Jack because he's older, he's really my cousin, he's my grandmother's first cousin. But anyway, Uncle Jack is just a reservoir of knowledge about our family. He told me about my great grandfather who was his uncle, Uncle Jack's mother and my great grandfather were brothers and sisters. So Uncle Jack is able to give us information about the family, and it's great to hear the storytelling. That he has a great memory about things. So we just kind of soak up the knowledge because it's so important, and it's soothing because it helps you to know, hey, I came from a group, a family unit. Black families, if you let society tell it, are non-existent, and that's just not true. That is just not true. We are still here and we're still thriving. And so anyway, so that's number 4. Number 5, researching your family history can support your self-care because it gives you a sense of purpose by keeping you focused and helping to ignite your imagination. I know for me, when I'm looking at some of the information that I receive, I try to imagine what was going on then. For example, when I found the information about Pender, my great 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 grandmother, or four great grandmothers, I tried to think about, what was she thinking at such and such a time, like a certain census that I may be looking at, you know, and also it helps you when you're doing these historical research on your family. It helps you to connect the dots of some of the stories that maybe some of the people in your family have told you over the years. For example, I remember my great grandmother, Mama T. She was always talking about the levee breaking. Well, I was a kid, so I didn't understand what she was talking about. And then as I got older, I would hear some of the older people talk about our family having to relocate from one parish to another parish. And of course, I didn't know. But since I've been doing the research on the family, I understand and I'm able to put some things in context. The family had to leave where we were originally from because of the Great Flood of 1927 when the levees broke. And I believe Spike Lee or somebody did oh no, his was about Katrina. But before Katrina, Hurricane Katrina, there was the Great Flood of 1927. And that is what my great grandmother, Mama T, was always talking about. And that really um, it really shaped her life because she was afraid of water after that. She was like, she wouldn't even get in the pool. She wouldn't even put her foot in the pool. Okay. So that's one of the things that it helps you to do. And then for me, regarding the sense of purpose, um, I feel it. And it's not a pressure, but I feel a sense of urgency and a sense of necessity to preserve our family story. We have a story. You guys have a story as well. You have a collective story about your family. You came from a people, okay? You came from you're still here, so you came from a strong people, because if you're black and you're from America, your people were enslaved. And the fact that you are still here is a testament to the strength of your family and from a people that you came from. So, one of the benefits of researching the family history, and it's helping me with my self care, is feeling that sense of purpose. Being able to preserve our family's legacy, and then also to share that legacy with my girls, and then they can share it with their children. So that's very, very important. And before I forget, I want to remind those of you who are, interested in looking into your family history. The 1950 census got released. I think it got released last month in July. They released the census information 51 years. I think it's 51 years and 6 months or something like that after they are taken. I think that's how it works. But anyway, the 1950 census has been released. I've been waiting for this 1950 census because it'll give me a lot of information about some of the relatives and when they passed away and where they were during the 1950 census. So you might want to look into that. The sixth way that researching your family tree can support you on your self care journey is by giving you a deeper understanding about your own personal identity. You know, there are things that we do and thing in ways that we look and we wonder, why do I do that? Or, why do I look like this? And why does this person look like that? You know, but when you learn about your family, you can kind of learn some of these things. I remember years ago, my uncle Johnny, who was my great grandfather's um, brother, had pointed out to myself and one of my brothers. He said, "Your eyes, you got those eyes. They're kind of a little, those little eyes. You got those from your great grandfather." I said, "Oh, wow, I didn't know that." So that's what he told me. But stuff like that, it's interesting to know because you kind of wonder, where did I get this nose? Where did I get these eyes? By learning your ancestors, you gain a better perspective, about yourself, within a framework, within a period of time, you know, a place, and other historical events. So for me, what I do is when I'm learning or I read something historical now that I'm doing the research on the family, I kind of connected to my ancestors. I kind of put it in a timeline like this took place here. So, what was this ancestor doing? Where were they? For example, many of you have probably heard about the new movie with Viola Davis. It's called The Woman King. And based on my little research that I've done, the movie is based on uh, the Dayomi Amazon women warriors of West Africa. Okay. And I haven't seen the movie, but I'm thinking that it's going to focus on the period around like 1880, between 1880 and 1894. That's what I'm guessing, just based on the trailers. I'm not for sure. Okay. But anyway, during that time, my fourth great grandmother, Pender, she would have been around my age. She would have been between 55 and 59 years old. I'm 56. So those kind of things that I'm doing as far as tying, one of my ancestors' lives in a timeline when I learn something new in his history, for me, it's interesting. It's like putting together a puzzle. Some people, they put together puzzles to relax and for their self-care regimen. Well, when you're doing your family history, trying to find your roots and putting them together, it's like putting together a puzzle, literally. because especially for African Americans, Blacks, a lot of our information is not written, and a lot of our stories, because it was against the law for us to read and write, had to be um, passed down through oral tradition, and so it's kind of difficult. It can be challenging to find some of the documents that we need to find to locate some of our relatives. But anyway, uh, for me, searching for my family history and placing them, in the timeline, as I mentioned earlier, it is like a puzzle. It's like a puzzle. So, researching my family roots is one of my self care activities. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Um, in the comments, how about sharing some ways that you partake in self care activities with the community? Other people may find it helpful. If you want to get uh, notified about the upcoming installments in this series and other content that I create, consider subscribing to the channel. Remember to hit the notification bell so that you are notified when I upload new videos. I try to do them once or twice a week. So thank you for watching, and until we talk, have a good day.